DeFi standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh.
Sorry, you started before it went live.
All right, I see.
No worries. Go ahead and do it again.
Can we count down?
Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the DeFi standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh.
And Patty XRP.
And today we're going to dive once again into Songbird Finance and some of the little glitches that have taken place. And Patty's going to give us a run through of some of the questions that we have seen come up on Twitter, in our Patreon group, and also in the comments of the YouTube channel. So just before Patty gets started with this, I do want to remind everyone that this is experimental finance, and we just have one token we're using right now. So Patty's going to really give you the answers to why sometimes you could take a loss on some of the swaps. So I'll let him explain all of that, but there is reason behind it, and this is not the full product of what to expect when everything's out there. And we're going to have also all the alpha assets, and we're going to have all the wrapped assets and all the other protocols too. This is just still testing with real world value. So Patty, what are some of the things that you noticed since using the V2 ExFi platform that people have had questions and concerns of?
Yep, for sure. So definitely a lot of questions around the stability pool, swapping on the DEX with the price between Songbird and Canary Dollar, and then also a ton of questions on how all the delegations are going to work. So we're going to kind of cover all that stuff, as well as a couple workarounds on the UI through mobile that will help you, and how to claim some of the rewards if it's not obvious to you. Hopefully this will help out. So to start off, ExFi V2 went live at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this past Saturday. To date, it's amassed roughly $30 million in total value locked between the Flair X liquidity pool for Songbird to Canary Dollar, and then also all the Canary Dollars staked in the stability pool, and all the Songbird that is locked as collateral backing the minting of the Canary Dollar stablecoin. So one of the things here is there's only one pool open, like I was saying, Songbird to Canary Dollars, and there's no Canary Dollars on exchanges at this point. Most of the pairs are either for Songbird or between Songbird and XRP or Songbird and USDT. So that means there's no arbitrage routes to work out the imbalances between the DEX and any centralized exchanges out there that have Songbird listed. So currently, based on the Songbird Oracle price, when I checked prior to us starting this video up, the basically Songbird's trading at a 9.5% discount on the DEX compared to the Oracle price from some of these exchanges that have listed it, like BitTrue. So with that, that means, let's say you have Songbird and you swap it into Canary Dollars on the DEX, you're technically getting less stable coins than you would if you swapped them for like USDT on a centralized exchange. However, Canary Dollars is trading at this premium because having Canary Dollars is the only way to earn DFLR. And as a reminder, DFLR is going to be the airdrop token to all Spark holders after the launch of Flair Network and Flair Finance. It's slated for 30 days after the Flair Network launch, and DFLR will be redeemable for the secondary governance token of Flair Finance called YFLR. So any DFLR you earn today, basically, if your main goal is to accumulate that, you're essentially betting on the future value of DFLR, and that is going to be worth it to you to take some extra risk by participating in an experimental finance network, especially out the gate. Whenever you participate right out the get-go, you're gonna assume more risk because there's more likely to be bugs or any other bad thing can happen. This is one of the reasons why, like, some of these long-lasting blockchains that maybe don't have the most development in the world still have a lot of value behind them, because they're proven that they work over a long period of time and deemed less risky at this point.
And also composability is very important with that too. So right now, we don't have that composability that you see of many mature protocols. But this is the very early days, And this is the infrastructure that's going to basically sit at the DeFi level of the Flair network that a launchpad is going to be built on, a yield aggregator is going to be built on, a money market account is going to be built on, and asset management. So this is just that infrastructure layer. And I do want to just emphasize Flair X, I don't know, I would say you would agree, Patty, is kind of the heart of the DeFi ecosystem in that it allows for the swapping of assets on chain in a decentralized way with very low gas fees. So if you're not sure if you want to put a lot of value into this, the least thing that you could do is at least understand how to swap on FlareX between, say, Songbird and Canary Dollar. Because eventually we'll have FXRP, we'll have ExFi, a bunch of new airdrops, YFlare, and all other assets. So I think that's the first step to get familiar with. And then, providing liquidity and loans and the farm, are higher level. But
Yeah,
they
and those
are easy to pick up on.
Yeah, I mean, those are things that you don't even have to get into. So, like right now, some of the stuff that's available probably comes with a little more risk or a higher level of understanding. Let's say this is something that's just way too complicated for you and you don't, it's not something you want to sink time into. One thing that's really easy still is delegating Songbird tokens to get more of them. And then we're going to have the ExFi snapshot come in the future on 12/12 of this year. And so with that, you'll get the secondary governance token for what will become Songbird Finance. So that's what the rebranding of ExFi V2 will be. And all you'll be able to basically stake risk-free in the governance staking pool and earn a yield somewhere between around 5 to 35%, depending on, market supply and demand and all that stuff going on throughout the ecosystem. So there will be other ways to earn that maybe are a lot easier and there's not a lot of weird things that can happen to you while doing that. So those are things you just have to be patient until they come out at this point. So kind of to address some of the issues or questions I've kind of seen, Mickey, one of the first ones is about collateral in a nest or a collateralized debt position. So this is if you put up Songbird to basically borrow Canary dollars from the Flair Loans protocol. Essentially, any Songbird that you put into the collateral smart contracts, that's going to automatically be wrapped into Wrap Songbird. And you can also deposit Wrap Songbird as a collateral natively as well. So ExFi is going to have control over the delegations for those assets. Additionally, any Songbird that you put into the liquidity pools on Flair X, those are also going to be automatically wrapped and delegated. So this means if, let's say, you provide liquidity with Songbird, like unwrap Songbird and Canary dollars, and then you eventually pull that liquidity out, it's going to come back to you as Canary dollars and wrap Songbird. And so this is pretty common, like on the Ethereum ecosystem or like Polygon, where whenever you enter into a liquidity pool or something like that, it'll automatically wrap the asset. It's just kind of how, the EVM standard works with the ERC token smart contracts and different things of that nature. And so with that, to kind of explain, what's going to go down with these delegations, essentially, since ExFi launched at the time it did on Saturday, there was already a new lock-in period for Epoch 9. So any of the stuff you do with ExFi from this Saturday until next Saturday isn't going to affect essentially your delegations for the current Epoch. However, coming up on this Thursday at it's 14:41 UTC time to Saturday at 8:40 UTC time, if you have your assets in an ExFi smart contract, so that's either providing liquidity with Songbird or using Songbird as collateral, if it's in during this time period within one of those smart contracts, then a vote lock happens, which is retrospective and not something we can know until the next reward epoch has started. That will basically make your tokens delegate based on however the ExFi smart contracts are set up. So right now, 50% of all those delegations will go to DeFi oracles, and those returns minus operating costs will, and everything that's given back to you, That will help increase the liquidity and the amount of canned minted between Flair X and Flair Loans. And then additionally, the other 50% of delegations will go to one of the higher earning signal providers to date. That hasn't been announced yet. And this is something that will change once governance is implemented. So probably in the second half of December, we're looking at when that will happen, when they start releasing the governance tokens and have the governance staking pool out there. So let's say you get, a vote lock occurs while you're in an ExFi smart contract. That means this next coming Saturday after Thanksgiving. So, I think that's the 27th at this point. You will start earning through the ExFi platform your delegation rewards. Those are going to be claimable on defioracles.org. And so that's where you'll start seeing those come in the future. But that's essentially how it's going to work. Certainly, if you wanted to, like, let's say you have your asset, let's say you have some Wrap Songbird in ExFi V2 right now. If you wanted to take it out before the end of today and use your wallet's delegations for that token, then you need to remove it out of the platform and bring it back into your wallet until the next vote lock period ends. And then you could go and put it back in ExFi and you would still have control over your delegations at that point. Nikki, do you have any questions in case I didn't explain that clearly enough?
I just want everyone to understand that they don't have to sacrifice losing their FTSO rewards to participate in DeFi. And I saw that a lot on Twitter and even in our Patreon group, that explanation there that it's not a one or the other. Now, you're going to have to unwrap from Wrap Songbird to Songbird to go into Songbird Finance. Is that correct? Into Flair X and into all the pools?
So to provide liquidity, I had to provide Unwrapped Songbird. However, it did allow me to directly use Wrap Songbird to use as collateral. So it just depends on the protocol at this point. I imagine in the future, they're going to allow you to just directly put Wrap Songbird into the liquidity pools. It's just not something that's available yet.
Yes. And now this is, if you're familiar with using Ethereum, native Ether and native Spark do not have smart contract capabilities. That's why they wrap them with ERC20 smart contract wrappers to give them that wrapped feature. And they're basically the same token. So it's just a wrapper over them. So you could go easily between Wrap Songbird to Songbird. That is not something very difficult to do. You should feel comfortable doing that all the time. We know the gas fees are very low. And I know some people have, let's talk just a touch here on governance, that if the price of Songbird went up dramatically, then the gas prices will be higher. So what would happen then if the price went up? Wouldn't the gas fees then be like what Ethereum are? And the answer is no, because the governance on the Flair network is able to vote. And unlike Ethereum, unlike Bitcoin, every individual who is an owner of Spark is able to participate in that governance. That means us as a community. It's a liquid democracy. So instead of asking, where's the gas fees going to go? Is they going to go through the roof? No, we decide. And I think this also goes for Flair Finance, which is going to have their own DAO, where those who are governance staking, Y Flair and Y Fin in the governance staking pool on Flair Finance, they will decide where the FTSO signal providers who are chosen, say it'll be DeFi oracles, and those governance body will decide because they're the governance body. And so we don't have to look in the future to these centralized entities. Oh, what does happen? Oh, what will they do to us? No, we're the community here. And this is something that's just great going forward. I think Flair Finance's community governance will be faster and things will be more interactive on a weekly, monthly basis. And Flair's will be, more on a monthly, larger parameters. But that's something important that Hugo has stressed, and so has Crypto Frenchie.
Yeah, absolutely. Governance is definitely going to play a key role once it gets rolled out. However, this kind of part of the ExFi thing right now is they're using this as a period to refine everything and know what they need to perfect going into Flair Network launching, and the main protocol being Flair Finance on Flair Network. So another thing I wanted to touch on here, Mickey, is the stability pool. So right now, since we have that price discrepancy between the DEX and the Oracle price, essentially, if you're taking Songbird tokens, swapping them into Canary dollars, you're paying a premium to do so right now. And then if you take those same Canary dollars you swapped into and put them in the stability pool, the liquidations are happening based on a higher Songbird price. So you're not earning as much Songbird back as you would if that Oracle price was the same as the DEX price. Hence why some people may have incurred some losses from doing this throughout the process. That's just how the economics and the market forces work with this right now. In the future, once arbitrage routes are kind of opened up, then you should see a more closely related price between the DEX and what the Oracle is outputting. So it's just the nature of a nascent ecosystem right now. And to further expand upon, what is the stability pool? So I'm going to go through their documentation here. So basically, Canary dollar holders can choose to deposit their stablecoin into the stability pool, thus becoming stability providers. The stability pool is the primary tool maintaining the system's solvency. It is the source of liquidity to repay debts from liquidated nests, ensuring that the total can supply always remains backed by the collateral. So, this is highly important, especially if Canary dollars and YUSD are going to be integral, parts of the Songbird and Flair Finance ecosystems. Stable coins are huge. DAI is a huge reason why DeFi started blowing up on Ethereum in the first place. And if you look at a lot of the liquidity pools on, some major DeFi dApps at this point, generally the highest volume and value is in crypto to stablecoin pools versus crypto to crypto pools. So it's highly important to have this and make sure that it stays solvent. Otherwise, you get into a bunch of systemic risks, just like we have in the traditional finance system when some major investment bank, goes under or something of that nature. So to move on further with this, when a nest is liquidated, an amount of Canary dollar corresponding to the remaining debt of the nest is burned from the stability pool's balance. This effectively repays the nest debt. So let's assume that you own a 1% share in the stability pool with how much Canary dollars you put in there. And let's say that for whatever reason, 100 Canary dollars needs to be paid back to maintain solvency after a liquidation. That means one of your Canary dollars would be taken to pay back since you have 1% of the share in the pool. And then you'd get 1% of the collateral share coming back to you from the liquidated Songbird. And then to move on further here, so with liquidation profits, in exchange for the burned Canary dollars, the entire collateral from the nest is transferred to the stability pool. Therefore, over time, stability providers lose a pro rata share of their Canary dollar deposits while gaining a pro rata share of the liquidated collateral. Because nests are likely to be liquidated at just below 110% collateral ratio, it is expected that the stability providers will receive a greater dollar value of collateral relative to the Canary dollars being burned from their contribution in the stability pool. And it's very key here, Mickey, that it says expected, as that is if, there isn't some weird thing affecting the ecosystem. So right now, the lack of arbitrage with the DEX is that weird thing that maybe is seeing people not essentially get a greater dollar value of collateral relative to the can being burned. However, part of this is the fact that you are earning DFLR rewards just for putting your Canary dollars in the stability pool. Also, it's important to note, as your Canary dollars are used in the stability pool, your share of the stability pool is decreasing over time if new people come and add more Canary dollars. So that may be why you're seeing less DFLR rewards over time. So that's another, important aspect of this to understand.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to understand that it's still only 3 components of the protocol, and canned dollar is not stable right now because of what Patty just explained. That does not mean that it's not going to be pegged to 1-to-1. All of these DeFi protocols, pretty much every decentralized stablecoin, within its ecosystem stays pegged 1-to-1 because of the design. Even DAI from MarketDAO, which is traded on centralized exchanges, is still able to maintain that peg 1-to-1, which, YUSD and Canary Dollar are not expected to do that. But this is just because we have only a few assets at the very beginning in only a few protocols. Once we get all those F assets on there, it's going to be massive. And I would even think a centralized stablecoin is a good thing. That is not a bad thing at all. We notice how USDC, USDT are in DeFi, and they play a large role in Ethereum, Avalanche, all the other Binance Smart Chain, to be able to create that arbitrage. And we know Wintermute and Hex Trust and many other agents are partners of Flair Finance and Flair. And that's what creates that arbitrage, which levels out the price. But even other liquidity pools, if there were more of them, would even level it out. So right now, what was the total? $30 million locked in total value after just, 2-3 days?
Yeah, I'd say across all three protocols. So like the DEX has roughly 11.5 million right now.
And these are, we say there's 3 protocols, but Flair X is probably going to have 10 to 15 different liquidity pools. Flair Farm is going to probably have 10 pools where you will stake that LP token. And there'll be multiple different collateral options for taking out nests or CDPs in the future. Then we'll also have Flair Mine. But we do have to separate that. The stability pool is not a money market account. It's not something you lend and then just get straight interest for. It's not that simple. Now, the liquidity protocol has managed to be able to do this even with the very high gas fees, but they pay a governance token to everyone in that stability pool. When it goes live on Flair, will you be earning YFIN for being in that stability pool?
Yes, based on their first version of the white paper, it seems like they're going to give YFIN to people in the stability pool.
So that's a big incentive right there. With only a 10,000 YFIN, it makes up for these. And also keep in mind that DFlair is not tradable. It's something there's going to be a very small amount of supply with. I think there's only 40 million coming out on the market of YFlair, which DFlair will be turned into. So every DFlair you earn now is going to probably have a decent amount of value. It's a tremendously lower supply than Songbird and Spark.
Yeah, so with that, Mickey, on since the DFLR is convertible into YFlare in the future, there's 110 million supply of YFlare. However, much of that is not coming onto the market immediately, and some of it may never come onto the market, like the YFlare allocated to the APY Cloud Reserve Pool and also to the foundation. So, if we think about it coming out with a 41 million circulating supply, and let's just say the market cap is roughly $250 million when Flair Finance launches for its secondary governance token. Maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too little. Just an example, it'd be about a $6.20 token right out the gate, per token price. So that's kind of the thing with this is, for me, participating in ExFi V2, other than to learn and especially monitor the effects of providing liquidity in a liquidity pool, I'm kind of betting on the future value of DFLR. Like, that's something that I have interest in earning in the future. So you kind of, that should be part of your decision-making process. If you want to do stuff right now this early, like, the big incentive is that you can earn more DFLR, in my opinion. Cool.
Yes, and this is just the beginning stage. And I do want to touch on this here, that the APY Cloud is a very fascinating component of what Flair Finance has built here. I mean, this has been built for a year going, and they've been able to monitor the entire birth of the whole DeFi ecosystem the summer of 2020 when DeFi boomed, right? We went through the last basically year and a half, but we are transitioning into a period that not many are aware of DeFi 2.0. Now, I'm not going to dive too much into that, but in the next coming days this week, I am going to do 1 or 2 videos covering what DeFi 2.0 is and how there's these new protocols. A lot of them are DAOs, and the DAOs are starting to have treasuries. They're starting to own their own liquidity. They're starting to pay out massive yields to stakers. But what Flair Finance has is this APY cloud. And the APY cloud basically is a dynamic yield aggregator for a long-term sustainable yield platform-wide. The APY cloud creates a predictable minimum and maximum APY for long-term incentivized governance staking. So now these two tokens that Flair Finance is going to have on their platform, YFlare, which will be airdropped, and YFin, which you earn from mostly from Flair Farm or from participating in the loans or the stability pool or the mutual, you'll now have a place to put them, stake them at no risk, and you'll be earning a percentage of the fees and the utilization of other users of the Flair Finance protocols. So basically, it's like a monetary system collecting taxes up, right? And it's paying back to those who are governance stakers. And it's there to support the stability of the system. Now, out of the 40 million YFlare that's airdropped, an additional 40 million YFlare is kept in the treasury of Flair Finance. And these treasuries are going to be very important. And it's something that, you could compare them to central banks. And we thought of Bitcoin, we think of miners, but that's all changing now. The actual DAO, since it's governed by a decentralized group of are able to manage that treasury and pull these different levers. We know we've talked about Flair Network with the inflation, with the F asset reward percentage, but with Flair Finance specifically, the more utilization of the platform, the higher the APY goes in the governance staking. Now, if everyone goes to governance stake, then the utilization goes down, which pulls it back in line. So this is a way of managing the monetary system and the crypto economics of the platform. So basically, it's balancing utilization and yield. And those are the two things that are important. Now, YFlare and YFin, I think, is superior to things like Compound and Aave because they have the instant ability to be staked at decently high yield. Now, 5 to 35% is just what's expected. It's likely to be a boosted rate above that. So that's why those are going to be highly desirable, in my opinion. So this APY cloud, I think, is a brilliant design component, and I think it's going to evolve. And it's something they put in that was important going forward, because these systems, you can't just build them and expect them to just run for the next 10 years and not be able to adopt things. Same goes for Flair Network. So this is a component, in my opinion, of DeFi 2.0. And DeFi 2.0 is a little more confusing than DeFi 1.0. So this is why I say try to catch up, learn what DeFi is, practice, because 2.0 might blow your mind on some of the things that are out there, and they're happening very rapidly. And they're going to change, I think, the crypto ecosystem within the next year or two. So we got two projects that I'll specifically talk about just to give everyone an idea. And I think it relates to Flair. So what do you think of DAOs and this concept of community governance, Patty, over these DeFi protocols?
Yeah, I mean, so it definitely seems like, a solution probably to, regulators and what they're questioning about DeFi and true decentralization, like who has power over changes to the network and things of that nature. I do think DAOs have a long way to go. And I don't really see like a one size fits all as far as, how voting works. Does it make sense to have voting allocated based on capital amounts? Should everybody have one vote each per user? Or should it be some kind of election system where you can vote representatives into the DAO that actually end up making the decisions based on, what their users value that voted for them? I think this is, a lot of stuff that's going to be worked on over, the years to come. And just like DeFi and crypto is evolving over time and trying to figure out what works best, I think the same thing is going to, ultimately happen with DAOs. I think they're super interesting and there's a ton of different, applications that they can be used for. I mean, there was even one that was trying to buy a copy of the Constitution recently, and they got really close to being able to do that too. So, I mean, I just think it shows there's some power in kind of doing things like this, and that people are interested at the very least.
Absolutely. And the thing is, with these permissionless systems, if you don't like the rules or you don't like the governance, then you move on to a different one. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever think they could make, excuse me, regulations for DAOs. I think there could be a broad corporate structure to it, but each DAO will have its own kind of structure. Now, I'm just going to throw out there the thing that's going to throw people for the loop. What happens when protocol can own value of other assets, like treasuries of other assets? That means think of some DAO owning Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even some other protocols assets. And also, how about owning liquidity? Imagine if you owned liquidity pool tokens to the Flair X pool right now. That means you would own Canned and SGB, and then you could issue those as bonds. So this is what is coming in DeFi 2.0, and then that allows the protocol and the DAO to then pay to inflate basically the supply and pay those staking. So the protocol's owning like 90% of the liquidity. So instead of renting liquidity like we did in DeFi 1.0 to yield farming and all those type of projects, and these tokens would have high APYs, and it was just, a gamification, and then all of a sudden they would move on to the next, move on to the next. Now we're seeing the protocols establish treasuries. And when I show you the numbers, I'm going to go the amounts of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars they're able to accumulate. But bringing bonds into the system, and I know Brad Kimes always talked about that. Well, this is very different than traditional bonds. But I don't even know what the central banks would think of this, Patty, or regulators. I mean, a lot of these projects, they're anonymous, the DAOs, but it's going so fast at a rapid pace. And there's one specific one that uses tokenized carbon credits that I think is absolutely one of the greatest, one of the best projects that I've ever seen in crypto. That's going to impact the real world. And Mark Cuban was one of the ones who shined a light on that. So we'll get into that. I don't want to give too much away, but DeFi 2.0 is cutting edge, and it doesn't work with the regulators right now. So just keep in mind what's coming so you could understand what's going to then be integrated into these DeFi protocols, ones that are out there now, and the blockchains that are out there now, and just the CeFi platforms. They're all going to come together. So it's exciting times ahead, and I think we're still very early, and we had a lot to go. So this Flair Finance, what we see right now, we're going to look back in a year or two, Patty, and we're going to be like, wow, remember how basic it was? Now there's like 12 different protocols built on top. There's yield aggregators. There's insurance. There's wallet providers out to PayPal and all these e-commerce and other types of integrations into the real world moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to look forward to some of those videos you put out on DeFi 2.0. So for this last part, Mickey, I just wanted to touch on a bit of some how-to stuff with navigating this platform and weird things people may have come across that they're having issues with. Also, just as a suggestion, every time that I've been claiming rewards, I've been marking down, what I'm claiming, how much, so I can observe the changes in my wallet. Also, just realize whenever you claim, Songbird out of one of these smart contracts on ExFi, it's more than likely going to be delivered to your wallet as wrapped Songbird. And that's because all the smart contracts are auto wrapping Songbird if it's not already wrapped when it enters into it, so that they can be used for delegations. So first, we're going to start with Flair Loans. If you are in the stability pool, and this is something, I have a slightly bigger screen on my laptop with mirroring Bifrost wallet onto here. So I actually have the withdraw SGB gains button and the withdraw DFLR gains button here. However, if you're a mobile user right now, and this is something that will have to be worked out, you are unable to see these buttons and claim individually. So essentially, right now, all you can see is withdraw and deposit, and that's for Canary dollars. So the way to claim your liquidation profits and DFLR rewards is either to withdraw a small amount of canned, it can be less than one, or also deposit a small amount of canned, which can be less than one. And then it will auto claim any of the rewards that you've accrued since the last time you made any adjustments to your assets in the pool. And these numbers will go back to zero and reset based on the new amount that you have in there after removing or adding a little. So just realize that that's one way to claim both of these. And then additionally, the same goes for DFLR staking. Whenever I add more DFLR into here, it will auto claim the Canary dollars that I've accrued and the Songbird tokens I have accrued. However, it comes back to me as wrap Songbird, not Songbird. So, I've just been using a pretty basic spreadsheet, and I'll come in once per day and pay the gas fees to do whatever claiming I need to do, and then deposit any assets in some other aspect of the platform so I can keep compounding. And honestly, I'm curious how this DFLR staking will evolve in the future. I'm hoping they'll either have this as YFin or YFlare, if not both, staking on the Flair Loans platform, as basically they're just paying some of the fees in the Flair Loans platform to people staking here. So it's kind of cool that you're able to earn a stable coin, which is different than most DeFi platforms out there in this way. And then the
And
other
it
one,
has a
yeah.
low collateralization ratio.
Oh yeah,
And it's capital efficient. That is one thing MakerDAO DAI does not have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I paid 0.5% of the total amount I borrowed since I started early. Now it's at 0.63%. And this is a one-time borrowing fee. I mean, like, what kind of loan system? There's not many out there that have such low interest. I mean, there's no interest accrual over time. So it's just I pay up front a little extra, a borrowing fee essentially to get the loan, and then I pay it back whenever I want. And as long as my collateral ratio stays above the appropriate level, I'm never going to be liquidated. So I think that's really powerful what they're building with this. And, that's part of the reason there is a stability pool, is because this is more like an autonomous system instead of matching people up P2P with like a borrower and a lender. So I think this is really cool. And we're going to get, we'll have a video that kind of breaks down how everything maneuvers in Flair Loans. So that'll be coming as well. The last one I wanted to touch on, though, as far as, some little hacks here is right here. So let's say you provide liquidity to Flair X, and then you stake the LP tokens, which are denominated as FLRX. That's like the ticker for the LP tokens. And when you stake them in here, it will also basically claim any accrued DFLR. Or if you remove any of your stake, it should redeem that as well. Or if you can see this claim button, you can use that to claim the DFLR. And then you'll go and stake that in this DFLR staking on Flair Loans. And then the last part, so let's say you're a liquidity provider. One thing that I'd like to see change in the future is when my LP tokens are staked on Flair Farm, I can still see the underlying asset composition of my two LP tokens. So one thing I've been doing is on a daily basis, I basically unstake my LP tokens from Flair Farm. And, you don't have to do this on a daily basis. I mean, if you want to track it once a week, that's totally fine. You are going to have to pay gas fees every time you stake and unstake. But what I'll do is unstake my LP tokens from here. I'll go over to Flair X, and I'll go to the liquidity tab, and then it will show me what my LP tokens are worth in SGB and Canary dollar. And this is something that changes constantly as you auto compound fees into your position, and as impermanent loss because of the pool rebalancing affects your position. So those are just some of the things I'm doing to help me keep track of everything, and also some workarounds for some of the UI issues. And then in the future, once we have the delegations coming in, if you're part of that, I'll have a video that covers what you have to do to get those out and all that. And then additionally, right now, since the stability pool has probably been the most talked about thing, I'm just running a small test. I put in about 10.49 Canary dollars into the stability pool on this test account. And once they're all used, then I'll basically just like report back in a video or on Twitter with, did I actually earn a profit or not? So we'll have that coming however long that takes into the future. So that's everything I have, Mickey. I don't know if there's any other things you want to add on before we wrap it up.
Get me off mute. And there was another partnership with Flair today. We'll cover that in tomorrow's video. They partnered with a esports project, which Songbird and I think Sparks used as a DAO token. We'll get into that more. It just came out before we made this video, but we will continue to cover the ExFi platform. And now is this opportunity for everyone to just practice. You're not expecting to make, a tremendous amount of wealth or go to the moon, but now is the chance to be able to get used to pushing buttons, understand how Ethereum smart contracts work, understand how Web3 wallets work. Because the XRP ledger, if you held on a nano ledger, you might as well expect that thing to go the way of the dinosaurs in the future. Because we're going to have things like Credo, things like multi-party computation. You're going to have other types of wallets that are going to be able to be more secure than hardware wallets. And Web3 is very difficult to use with a hardware wallet. You can do it with MetaMask. It's clunky. And in my opinion, more of the security risks are on the user than the actual devices. So get used to using a Web3 wallet. What do you have a Web3 wallet? Have you ever used one? Holding an asset in a wallet is not using the Web3 wallet. Connecting to a dApp. Are you going to use Wallet Connect? Are you going to use it on a browser extension? With Bifrost, it's so easy. Do it inside the browser. Eventually, we'll get the capability where there'll be that QR Connect camera button, and we could scan it on our laptop and connect there and sign the contracts. Because when Flair launches, amount of fanfare, and there is going to be a huge opportunity to profit. None of the big YouTubers are talking about it. The only ones who really, it seems like, get it are Jungle, Crypto Eddie, and there's a couple of those out there. But a lot of the big ones, they don't realize what the opportunity is for Flair when it launches with your FXRP. The amount of value you're going to be able to accrue, and you're going to be able to compound that yield. So understand how that's going to work. Hopefully soon, Patty, we'll be able to test out the privacy shield pools with Panther on Songbird. We'll also be able to test out the Alliance block, anonymous KYC verification, also the liquidity mining as a service, and the compliance layer, and the funders investment, and also minting of F assets on Songbird. These things still all have to come. So for all of those who complaining, when's Flair going to launch, when Flair's going to launch, your test bed's here right now. You have no complaining should be going on. Now is the time to test it, get used to it, master it, and then really take advantage of it when Flair goes live. Because there's going to be an institutional side, and there's going to be a rush of new community members coming in with XRP, I think personally getting full clarity and bringing in more community members and bringing in more attention from institutions. You're going to have a chance to make a lot of money. But if you're not prepared, you're not educated, and you just took it for granted and you sold your airdrop tokens and ignored it and complained, you'll miss out. So now's the time. The Canary Network is a beautiful thing, and I'm excited to see what other tests we're going to have on the Flair Network, because this is just the first one of many to come.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add one thing, Mickey, on the testing component. So right now, if you want to open a nest, you have to take out a minimum $1,800 loan. I believe the reason for that is to basically reduce the workload with how many nests are being opened at this point in time, especially in the infancy of the experimental finance protocol. So that's something I would expect to be reduced in the future, but it's not, conducive to running tests of, $1,800 is not what I would say like practicing. To me, that's like $5 or $10 or something like that. But you are able to do all of that with, providing liquidity, staking on Flair Farm, using the stability pool and swapping. It's just you may have to wait to practice, opening a collateralized debt position. Definitely, I realized some people in the comments last time were like, I don't know what you guys think a test is, but $1,800 is a lot of money for a test.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, no, y'all right. So just wanted to bring that up. So you guys know that should be changing in the future. I think it's just, as a precautionary thing to start out. But yeah, with that, we are the
just one
oh yeah,
last
you want to
thing.
go? Yeah.
Oh, that was my train of thought. Yeah. There's gonna be so many more assets. Literally all the wrapped assets, Casino Coin. You'll probably see Wrap Sologenic, all the Wrap Shiba Inu, all the coins that Flair Finance has announced they're gonna wrap, even the centralized stable coins. You're gonna have all of those plus YFin, plus YFlare, plus Spark, plus all the F assets, 5 of them. No ecosystem or blockchain or DeFi starts out like that. I don't care who you are, you don't start out like that usually. It took Avalanche a year to get as big as they were, Cosmos to get as big. Flair, and there might be bridges for Doge and all that other, but Flair has this state connector system being built. It's in testing right now. We should start to see that wrapping up soon. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the next couple weeks. Also, look out for Panther. Patty and I will probably do another video on that. That's another great project. Also, look at Layer 2 projects. I know we don't talk about too much of this on YouTube, but if you are interested in getting the full Patty and Mickey B. Fresh deep dive experience on other projects that we do share and going into higher level of DeFi on how to strategize, you could join our Patreon group. We have a very elite group of members, great group. The description is in the link below, or the link is in the description below. And that's for those who really want to take it to the next level, because we do not put everything on YouTube at a high level because, not everyone's really ready for that. But if you are ready to take it for the next level, our Patreon group is where it's at. So we have a Discord, we have a Telegram group, multiple Telegram private groups on NFTs, and higher tier, 2 Zoom calls every week with Patty and myself, roughly around 2 hours each. It is the premier DeFi and Flair Patreon group in the community. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
Patty XRP.
And we're out.
See y'all.